Hello, my name is Barbara Gertina, and I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Wellness Matters, You Matter. And I started off in wellness, but wellness encompasses so much more than just your physical wellness. And today I just realized that it was National Suicide Prevention Week. And I've been speaking on this topic because I am a mother who lost a child to suicide, who took her life at 15 years old. And I am part of a support group for survivors of suicide because we all need support. And unless you've been through this, you really cannot understand what it's like, as well as no one's talking about the people left behind, the collateral damage left behind for all of us. And after going to a number of support groups and over the years and seeing people come in, some people come in after 25 years because they've never processed the situation that happened. Maybe it's the loss of a mother or a father or a extended relative. No one talked about it. People suppressed it, don't talk about that, and it does damage to all of us. So I want to just bring out a couple of points today. And I know for myself, people have wanted me to help with, how do I prevent suicide? And I just can't say how to prevent suicide. I couldn't prevent my own daughter from taking her life. I never thought she would do that, but she was acting out. There was conflict from her since she was a toddler. She was a very brilliant child, but she was a very conflicted child. My background's early childhood education. I saw signs of emotional and something wrong, but I couldn't see patterns of behavior to know exactly what that was. I sought out counselors at the school. I sought out other counselors. I asked people. I went against my former husband, who you don't talk about your feelings, you don't say things, you suppress things. And received a lot of flack trying to get help for my child. And after a lot of over 20 years of being in that situation and waiting 11 years to have a child because I wanted to be the stay-at-home mom and be the one raising my child. So working with my former husband to be able to get to that point where I could stay home and not have to work and be able to raise our children. And, we talk now about do something and say something, but after being in the rooms and seeing what people write about people that have taken their lives and to the people that are left behind, it was a huge wake-up call to me when Kate Spade took her life, and Anthony Bourdain within a very short time, and Robin Williams, and the hateful things being posted. Why didn't this family help? Why didn't somebody do something? Why? You have no idea behind the scenes what many people have done or what the journey was. You cannot help someone who does not want help. My daughter refused to talk to any counselors. I had to have a counselor come to my home as a single mom and put a timer on and an incentive that you can't watch Full House or the shows you want to watch unless you talk. She was brilliant, but the only feeling words she could use were happy, mad, glad, sad, even with the chart of all the range of emotions. And this child was a literary giant. She was a writer. Her vocabulary was off the charts, but the only feeling words that she was able to use on her own were had, glad, mad, sad. And I couldn't get her in the car to go to talk to someone. Several times I did. And then the counselors and therapists said, I cannot help you if your child will not speak or communicate or know what's going on. At the very end, she went to a top adolescent psychologist after an intervention. And this person said, I've never lost a child. What did I miss? My child was so brilliant that she led this man down a different path from what she was actually thinking. That was so believable. He thought he was helping her and he had a handle on the situation. That's how insidious this is. So from hearing so many different stories, so many small innocuous things happen that when you look back after a situation happens, and in my mind, I'm thinking of one person who lost her husband. There have been a number of people that lost a husband, absolutely in shock. Life is good. Things are good. No signs of a situation. However, looking back, tiny little things, but such tiny little things that those seem normal in a regular marriage, or bumps that you hit in the road, nothing, hitting you broadside. I have another friend that shared with me, her brother in college wasn't feeling right. So he reached out to his parents, and they had means, and they put him even in a hospital setting with someone watching every 15 minutes for his behavior. And he still managed to do this. So I share those incidents because people lead you down a different path, or things happen in our brain. I want to bring another situation that just came to light with the Capitol Police officers. And, they've brought up the deaths, and several have been by suicide. And even myself, having dealt with this for about 20 years now, in 2022, it will be 20 years since I lost my daughter. And, thinking of, and I'm working with trauma, and as well, because emotional well-being has such a huge effect on our physical health. We cannot divorce the two. We have our physical components from the foods we eat, the air we breathe, sleep patterns, lifestyle patterns, diseases going on in our body, which are often caused by emotional situations, emotions that are held in our cells, in our bodies. We didn't know. I wasn't taught any of that. And then I'm in the support rooms of survivors of suicide, which very few people even attend, with the massive amounts that are happening in our world today. We are taught to suppress our feelings. Don't talk about it. Don't let people know. All of that is stored in your body. And what I've studied and learned now with our chakras, with our beingness, those can be gut health, can be all kinds of things. So going back to the Capitol Police, it was like another police officer took his life. And I'm thinking PTSD, the emotional trauma, even though they're trained in that arena. And in that position, you're not seeing the kinds of things that the street police are seeing every night, and then having to come home to and not bring home to their family. I mean, really, all the first responders right now that are dealing with that, all the military coming back, dealing with all of the things that they have witnessed that is in their body, that unless you speak about it or deal with it. But then I saw another talk on YouTube. It was very fleeting, and it was just being announced, and it was just a few moments, and I haven't seen anything pop up about it since. Now, I've really been filtering my news for my own well-being. He said, but as they started to do brain scans or an autopsy, this officer had been hit with blunt force to the head. I wonder what the other officers had been, if they had been assaulted. I'm assuming so. And that damages your brain. When you don't have those neural pathways operating correctly, a solution can be suicide. This is not a one-size-fits-all situation. Watching the Olympics and Simone Biles, I'm so in awe at her courage, her bravery, her leadership, in light of what she was dealing with for her team and our country. But I really bristled at the labeling of mental health. We need to be talking about brain health. Dr. Ammon, I just heard a talk with him, who is a leading brain specialist and psychologist. I think he might be a psychiatrist, has numerous books out, has been on PBS numerous times, is a pioneer. And he had arrows in his back for just thinking about brain scanning, and recently started to talk about, we need to be referring to this about brain health. If you don't know spatially where you are and you are a gymnast, that is dangerous to you. That is brain health. That's not mental health. Can you imagine the mental fortitude that it took to get to the level of athleticism after having a challenge even in your childhood, having challenges in your family with siblings, and being at the top of your field globally for years? And look at the mental fortitude. I don't know that I don't have that stamina and focus and concentration, but that time frame, her brain was not being healthy or at its fittest. So let's start using that term of brain health. And I wonder, with my daughter, 20 years ago, we didn't talk about those things. There was something going on. It isn't like manage your emotions. You know, teachers didn't understand this child. I did what I could to try to understand this child. She was a very unique individual. So it's really important. If you see things, you need to say something. You need to speak up. If you are a teacher, if you're a health provider, I'm so grateful to hear that in pediatrics they're starting to pay attention to children's emotions. And it's because of this pandemic. Our children are at risk now. And I want to, deal with what other people might be dealing with. Another topic is, hearing these stories. We only know our own story. And trust me, with this kind of death, you always are going back. What could I have done? What could I have noticed? How could I have saved this person? It doesn't stop no matter what you have done. So do everything that you can so that you can live with yourself. I remember my psychologist that was helping me at the time, he said, Barbara, if I could think of anything else that we could do, we would do it. I put myself in tremendous risk and suffering in many, many situations to help my daughters, not just one daughter, because when you have a child like that too, if you're dealing with a child situation, it takes a lot of energy and attention away from your other children, because so much energy pours into someone that is having challenges, and as a parent, you're like, I was like a mama bear, like, what can I do? What can I say? How can I couldn't sleep. It was really, really difficult. And especially in a divorce situation, which leads me to something else I want to speak about. But first I want to say one more situation about suicide deaths. So I can help you deal with things after the fact. We go through grief, and grief that is felt. I didn't know that kind of grief ever in my life. I'd never experienced close death in my family, other than one elderly grandmother at 88 years old. And I lived far away and I was a little girl. And I remember a few times with her. So the effects of this, and as a mother, not being able to save your child, whether it's cancer or other things, but taking their life is a different thing. And it's almost like having a baby. You can't explain what that's like to someone else who has not had a baby. And so getting together in a group, we don't have to say anything. We know that pain, and we know, and I learned that grief has physiological effects, very big physiological effects. And we don't talk about it in this country. And I want to speak to another type of death. And sometimes these deaths leave such an impact. Thinking of a mother who took her life and her daughter found her. It was a horrific, violent death that this child in her teens has to live with. She's the one that found her. Sometimes I just don't understand. We can't understand the thinking of these people. And what we have to deal with afterwards is unbelievable. People don't realize. But there's also been some other deaths where the person has cried wolf all the time. I'm going to kill myself. If you do this, I'm going to kill myself. If you don't do this, if you leave me, if you this, if you that. You know, somebody separating from a boyfriend, somebody deciding that they need to leave a marriage, or staying in an abusive situation because that person is always threatening to kill themselves. We are put in positions that are very, very difficult. But sometimes we have to put the gas mask on, the oxygen mask on, and have self-care and self-love. So as a mother, and I told you that I was dealing with this as a single mom. So I'm dealing with someone that I already couldn't live with, and we didn't have an amicable divorce. I was for 10 years, I was afraid to leave this person, and with good reason. Recently, as I said, it was almost 20 years ago that my daughter took her life, and I've reconciled, I've been at peace, I've used this to heal, to help others, to talk about it. It's unbelievable, as I'm open with this in my life, how almost every person I meet has this in their family. It just blew me away. It has blown me away over and over again. But I recently found out that my former spouse knew that this child wanted to do this, knew. Even after blocking any kind of therapy that I tried to do, blocking it and talking to this child and telling them they do not have to share their feelings. They do not have to talk about it. They do not have to, which I knew that personality was that way. And my child was in the middle and was scared. So was she acting out? Was she an easy child to deal with? No, she was not and I'm not going to pretend that this was an easy journey and that I wasn't angry and I did a lot of things wrong. I own all of that. But I just found out that that person knew this child was struggling with that and did not get her help, even though I was getting her help. And finally, she saw somebody 4 times before this happened. This just sent me into a tailspin of trauma. So this is what I'm saying when we're talking about national prevention. If you would rather your child die than talk to the other parent, or to not share information because you think maybe it reflects bad on me, or maybe it's my ego, or maybe it's on my watch. And my daughter took her life in that man's home while he was home. And I am the bad person. And I'm speaking out today in a much greater way because no, I could not prevent. If I knew that information, could I have done something different? I think so, because I even had a premonition. 3 days before this happened, I had a huge premonition, and I'm recognizing and realizing what an intuitive, empathic person I am, which is made for this sensitivity that I didn't understand, and other people made fun of me and didn't understand me, thinking I'm imagining things, or you're so sensitive. Yes, I'm very sensitive because I'm empathic. I didn't even know what empathic was, but now I look at all the things I suppressed, which were really messages to me and knowingness. But 3 days before, I had this impending doom of something's about to happen. I don't know what it is, but I know it's about my daughter. Something's going to happen. And I actually went back to the psychologist that was seeing her. And, you know, you're so beaten down at this time, and you're fighting against so many other personalities, and it's so easy to be in fear and doubt because you're being made fun of, you're being laughed at. I had such a deep feeling, and I went to the office and I talked to the receptionist. So now you think about this. I said, something's about to happen. I know it. I feel it with every fiber in my body as a mother. Something is about to happen, but I can't say what it is. Can we Baker Act my child? What can we do to protect my child? But we couldn't Baker Act her because she was exhibiting extreme behavior, but she wasn't on drugs. She wasn't harming herself. So there was no reason. She goes, they'll just release him. Now that's coming from the receptionist. I never got in to see that psychologist to talk to them. And I allowed myself by the gatekeeper to keep me down in a way. That's maybe my one thing that I could have, and I just turned away defeated because I had no evidence. And so now what I am faced with, and this is why I'm talking about this, especially prevention, it starts a long time ago. And what I believe the root cause of my daughter's death is parental alienation, is alienating the other person, creating them and defaming their character and creating a persona of hatred that is the child is put in the middle. It is affecting over 22 million people in North America alone. It is global. Our courts, our family law, they do not understand it. They don't see it. Family law is $1 trillion business. It's a huge moneymaker. And when they pit people against each other, it churns the case and they make more money. It's a huge factor. I didn't even realize that family law does not follow the same law practices as criminal law and other types of law. And I believed going to court would help. I would bring my case. I would bring my concerns. For what? Now that I'm in this, I see case after case of despair, and the collateral damage is our children and our grandchildren. I am here in Florida, and there are no rights for grandparents. I was ostracized really from my other daughter. Meanwhile, my daughter took her life in her father's home while he was home, and he knew it. He knew that was going to happen. That was a possibility. Yet I'm the bad person because narcissistic types of people have to put it on someone else because they cannot accept any of their part of things. I will own my part of it. And as I said, I didn't do everything right, but now it's history repeating itself. My daughter recently was divorced. So all this time I haven't spoken out because I didn't want to hurt those around me. I did not want to hurt my other daughter, but there's a bigger mission here. And now I'm being pushed aside with the exact same behavior. Do you know, I didn't even know my daughter moved and then changed her. I asked for the address to send a present to my grandson last week for his birthday. No, I don't even know what I did or said. I've had 1 minute of FaceTime this year. And when I had an opportunity, I wasn't even getting to speak to him on his birthday or say hello. And I got through with an appointment, you can call it this time. And my grandson turned away. I had taken care of him from birth. I was there when he was born. I took care of him, you know, for several years. We cuddled, we loved each other, we laughed, we smiled, and I watched the behavior. And it dawned on me a couple of days ago. My daughter's divorced now. She is back with her father. This behavior is starting again. So you do something and you say something because you don't see these small increments of things happening until in that child. I am going to take a break from my grandson because he's in the middle. I saw his torment. He's not allowed to love me. I saw it. I could feel his energy. He is put in the middle. Oh my gosh. If I like her, if I say something nice, if I see her, if I hug her, he is being taught hatred, shunning, turning away people that love you and that you love. What will that do to this child? This sweet, beautiful, loving boy. And I'm being told I'm doing it to him. I don't want to put him in the middle. Is my grandson going to take his life in a number of years? The same freaking behavior is being repeated. So this is how you can help. This is how you can help prevent suicide. Pay attention to people. They matter. Let them show you who they really are, because they will show you. Watch their behaviors. If they're afraid, if they're quiet, reach out. Just show love. Just show they matter. And if you see signs of that, I don't believe we can save somebody when they truly want to take their life. I do. So I'm not putting guilt on people. If you've known something, if you've shared something, if you saw something and then somebody did something, you don't know what the clues are. You don't think about that. Looking back, you see things so many times. But when it is blatant, when you are doing these kinds of things to people, when you are shunning people, when you are keeping love away from somebody, what's if my grandson one day needs somebody on his side? Will he come to me? And I'm probably the wisest one he knows dealing with behavior, because I've been studying trauma and energy work, and we don't talk about these things. And so he's not going to have that lifeline, maybe, because I don't see it surrounding him. I don't even know where he goes to school, what he does. I've been totally shut off, just like I was being shut off with my other daughter, and she gave up. And I believe I really know the reason why she took her life. But that's the other part of this kind of death. There's so many unanswered questions, so many, because sometimes they are the happiest person that you've ever met. They are the one that is always doing things for other people that you would never guess inside is dealing with this trauma. So reach out, talk to people, read between the lines, say hello, be nice. This cruelty and separation and polarization right now in our society is leading to huge numbers of suicide. I'm especially dealing and wondering about the young children, because they bring these behaviors forth. We have to love our children. And, now it's even more widespread. If you can't get along, either married or not, people are coupling together, having children and moving on. Where are our children going to have stability? Where are they going to know that they are loved and cared for, and they get to have both parents? They are made from two people. One person does not have the right to sequester all the genes of their offspring. They did not make that child themselves. I am not talking about abuse. I'm not talking about violent situations where children need to be removed, but I am creating awareness about parental alienation, and people are doing it everywhere. Alienating, thinking they are the only person that knows what's right, and creating hatred in their child for the other parent. And it is counterintuitive to what most people think. If children, the studies show, that have been abused still want to go back to their parent. Parents that have been incarcerated, they still get to go back to their parent. Foster children, when the behavior of the parent seems that it's stabilized, they get to go back to their parent. Those children always want to be with their parent. Children that have been adopted and never even knew their parent yearns for their parent to know, where did I come from? Alienated children do not have those cues. They have been radicalized. It's cult behavior, where you do not have discernment, when you do not have rational thought, when you do not understand really your emotions and feelings. They are blocked, and it happens rapidly. So people just getting divorced, you don't see the signs. There can be little things, and it's this little insidious thing. Okay, no, you can have them for the weekend. No, what do you mean I can't have them? Little things you would not even think would lead to something like this. It is amazing. But once you lose that little grip or that control, and I think a lot of this happened during pandemic, because going back and forth, going back to school. It has created dynamics of parenting of separated people that is very challenging unless they have emotional intelligence and emotional awareness and they care about their child. I'm watching this happen to my grandson before my eyes after losing a child to this. Actually, I've lost both children to this because my other daughter's radicalized. And we tiptoe around. The protocol is don't raise any, don't say anything, don't do anything, be gentle, be kind. The cruelty, the abuse, and we just take it and take it. It's been 25 years. I can't take it anymore. I'm speaking out. This is a huge problem in our culture, our society. It leads to violence. It leads to suicide. It leads to self-harm. So I am on a rant, but I really feel validated that I have the background to be able to speak to this because I want to create impact. I want to create awareness. Nobody wants to think about this. Nobody wants the awareness of this because they might have to do something. It might be uncomfortable. It's more uncomfortable when you haven't done anything and that child dies, or that spouse or a father or a sibling. So think about it. If you know something, please contribute that information to the right parties. I think it's scary to know, or you're not sure if it's something that's right, then go to a third party and say a therapist, or there's so many things, even on Clubhouse, you can be anonymous and vulnerable. And there are constant mental health and wellness rooms from all around the world with experts and professionals, extremely well-known professionals giving their advice, and you can ask questions freely. So there's no excuse today to not know. Please, that's what you can do for National Suicide Awareness and Prevention Week. I'm Barbara Dertina. I'm putting together some things for people that have experienced this in their lives to be able to move forward, because it doesn't go away, you don't forget. But I'm working with Reiki and relaxation and breath work. Those are the things that we can do so we can lead a healthy life. And we need to. The world needs us. Our children, our other children need us. Our spouses need us. So please stay tuned, and we all do the best that we can. But please, please become aware and care. Everyone matters.